I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I call to order the Wickliffe City Council meeting of March 11th, 2024. Sandy, please call the roll.
Falla.
Here.
Gerhardstein.
Here.
Jaworski.
Here.
Kowski. Here. Levon.
Here.
Saloto. Here. Thielman.
Here.
Approval of council minutes. Councilman Gerhardstein.
I make a motion we approve the council meeting minutes from February 26, 2024.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Gerhardstein, seconded by Councilwoman Saloto, that the council meeting minutes of February 26, 2024 be approved as presented. Discussion? Sandy, please call the roll.
Falla.
Yes.
Gerhardstein.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Kowski. Yes. Levon.
Yes.
Saloto. Yes. Thielman.
Yes.
Reports and communications from the Mayor, Safety Director.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. This morning, the Finance Director and myself attended the ad hoc committee of the Western Lake County Mayors regarding the local government fund. Here are the most recent updates. There will likely be 3 more meetings before this matter is concluded. The next step in this process is for each city to come up with a percentage that we can live without for the next 7 years. This is our opportunity to come up with a number that will not hurt us as much as what the townships are presenting. This is a process, and I will continue to update you as we move forward. The State of the City and the State of the Schools will be held April 10th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at the Community/Senior Center. City of Wickliffe administrators and Mr. Specia of the Wickliffe City School District will speak that evening. Please mark your calendar to join us. That's all I have.
Any questions or comments for the Mayor, Safety Director? Councilwoman Saloto?
So with the meeting that you have coming up with the cities, or whatever, so you're gonna pick just a general number? Every city's gonna pick their own number that you're gonna try to negotiate? Okay.
Yeah, so
So how are you coming up with the number? I mean,
Shalandra, you want to maybe?
I started looking at what we had left over in different departments for the end of 2023, trying to gauge what can we potentially cut without having to cut salaries. And then I'll talk to the department heads for our biggest departments, service, police, and fire, to see if they agree what we come up with and go from there. So I started working on it today, and I'll continue working on it throughout the week.
Thank you very much. So we think that it's gonna be, so they're anticipating, they're trying to push a very large number.
Yeah, the large number would be about $400,000 or $500,000.
Yeah, that's what I wanted
And
to.
that's where we're all taking a stand. And there's even cities.
Every year?
No, so yes, and
For
this would
7
be.
years?
No. So it would be a 7-year stretch
Okay.
to take that money, right? So we wouldn't lose it all in one chunk, but after 7 years, then it would continue. However, we might still get more money from the state at that time, but right now we're just basing off what they give us.
Right.
But the townships and villages, have their formula for why they think they're only factoring in population and they're not factoring in safety and things of that matter. So I still think we have a dog in the fight, and it's not going to be as bad. But I'm just trying to positive think this here, and hopefully it won't wound us as much as I thought it was. But I think this would be the better option, just telling them it's something,
Right, and come up with a reasonable number.
Right.
Okay. Thank you so much for explaining that.
Councilman Jaworski?
So, Mr. Mayor, I just a little bit confused. So it's not redoing a formula now. It's going to be a number, and it's this number. So that means that number then, in future years, for instance, with cost of living, inflation, et cetera, wouldn't go up. We'd be stuck at that particular number then, in perpetuity, essentially.
Well, the number that we would present is how much we'd be able to lose. So, does that make sense? Meaning, we're not going to tell them what we would take, because there'll be more money coming from the state supposedly over the years. We would only lose a certain amount, let's say, to throw out a percentage, 14%, right? That's one of the numbers that they threw around today. But there's also going to be, I can't think of, there's like a rollover, I forget what the name of it is, fund that would build up and it would be split amongst the cities that got hit the hardest. So at the end of the day, when this is all figured out, I don't think we'll lose as much as the certain percentage. But right now, that's just the hard numbers that I have. And Tom might have enlightened, if you know more information. Because I know Willoughby, Bob Fiala is leading the charge here. And so he's been updating. Only certain people can go to this HOC committee meeting. And so next week, Shalandra is able to go, which is good. But yeah, they're not factoring none of that. I mean, Chief Grossman came up with the fact that we house the hazmat truck, right? And we pay to maintain it, staff it. And well, things like that, it might only be $10,000 a year, but we're not doing that no more. If that happens, Madison or these townships or village, they can worry about the things that we're able to help now. So we'll get to that, but I get it with all the rates going up and things like that.
So you're gonna add all those things that we have?
Yes.
and just-
Yeah, when it comes to worst case,
Okay,
yes.
That's good. Thank you so much.
Is it, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, is it believed that Wickliffe of all the communities stands to lose the most, or do you think there's other communities that would potentially, like for instance, Willoughby, lose more than us?
No, so it's gonna be right around the same with Willowick and Eastlake, and then is about the same, 400,000 or 500,000, and then Willoughby is about 300,000. But the cities that are standing behind us, like Kirtland, the village of Timberlake, they're actually gaining more money through this new formula, but they're gonna stand behind us because, and ask to keep the formula the way it is now, just because they don't think it's right, that the bigger cities, that we're on the front line of defense. And at the end of the day, we keep some of these townships and villages safer because we have to staff a $5 to $7 million police department. So if that, but yeah, so the three main cities are us, Willowick, and Eastlake.
Councilman Gerstein.
So I want to make sure I understand. The townships are going after the local government because they're running out of money, right? So the local townships that don't pay income tax, they don't pay township income tax. They fail their safety levies, like Concord didn't pass their safety levy. And so we put the burden of our safety forces, the residents voted in a levy. So it's easier for those residents not to pay any extra. They don't want to increase their taxes, but they want the money that the city of Wickliffe gets.
Correct.
And after we burden our residents with the taxes.
Correct.
Seems like a fair system.
Yeah, it's not a fair system whatsoever.
Councilwoman Saloto.
I don't want to belabor this because I think you've done a great job of explaining it. I understand what you guys are up against, but I'm just curious. Like, why would our burden be higher than like a Willoughby or a Manor?
Councilman Thielen.
For whatever reason, in 1982, they came up with a formula, some algorithm that
Right.
produces a certain amount of money that the state of Ohio sends Lake County, a local government fund,
Yeah,
and then
I
they divvy
understand.
it up, right?
Right.
So that algorithm has been in place since 1982.
And we were not taking part in it as much as Willoughby or?
No, it's a very complex system.
I know, I think it's
Where
odd.
it benefited Western Lake County all these years. Somebody kicked the bush and said, wait, other counties look at just doing a straight population-based formula. When you go to a population-based formula, our population's low, right? We only have, 12,000 residents. Concord has 18, 19,000 people. So they
Right.
win, we lose.
Okay, so we were
Our-
given an
yes.
inordinate share.
Willoughby,
that-
22,000, not as bad, not so much a loser. Willowick, Eastlake, losers.
Got it, okay.
So we're all to the tune of 500 and 600,000 a year losers, Eastlake, Willowick, and Wickliffe,
Got it.
while Mentor, Concord, Painesville Township all win. So the have-nots get less than the have.
And the little villages who have nothing also get.
Well, they just kind of stay the same. You know, they get a little bump.
Yeah, little.
But when they're only getting 60,000 and it goes to 70,000, yeah, that means a lot to them.
Okay, got
But
it.
ours goes from 1.2 to 600,000, so.
Okay.
So what they're looking at is maybe a 7-year period of time where we ease into that population-based formula. So it's less, we just don't take a $600,000 hit, we take a 100, 100, 100, 100. And in the meantime, hopefully the local government fund increases, because it was just a few years ago, it was $1 million. Now we got $1.2 million, almost $1.3 million. So it has been going up. DeWine has put more money into it. Obviously, it was slashed under Kasich. That was the big, let's balance the state budget on the backs of the local government. So
Thank you so much.
that's what I have.
Mayor, just a clarification on the state of the city schools, that was April 10th at 6:30?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure we got the right date. Okay. Any other questions or comments for the mayor, safety director? Thank you, Mayor. Reports and communications with the director of law.
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Any questions or comments for the law director? Thank you, Jerry. Communications from council president, I have none. Amendments or additions to the agenda. I'm gonna add a couple things real quick. I'm gonna add executive session to discuss complaints against a public employee as number 18 and move adjournment to 19. I'm also going to add new business A, Wickliffe City School District property zoning. Any other additions or amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, move on to administrators. Police Chief Bush is excused, so we'll go to Fire Chief Grossman.
Thank you, Council President. I have nothing to add to my written report that I submitted.
Any questions or comments for the Fire Chief? Councilman Bala.
Any news about plans for the interior of the fire station? Did you get a peek or anything?
Yes, they took some comments and they were working on a few things, and then we also contacted the Lake County Building Department to see if there would be anything would fall under their purview, so we're waiting to hear back some comment on them as well.
Correct.
So,
Any other questions or comments for the Fire Chief? Thank you, Chief. Finance Director Hunter.
Thank you, Council President. February is closed and the general fund carryover balance is about $7.9 million.
Any questions or comments for the Finance Director? Councilman Gerhardstein.
On the finance report, it says that the storefront renovation program is already maxed out for 2024. Did I read that correctly, that it's all been encumbered already?
That was last year's. So there were several grants that weren't issued. And so the POs were encumbered, or the money was encumbered last year on a PO and it rolled forward. So that's what you're saying.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any further questions or comments for the Finance Director? Thank you, Ms. Hunter. Engineer Formica.
Thank you, Council President. One thing that I had in my written report, we did open bids for Drenick Drive sewer lining project. I do not have a report for you this evening. As the contractor, I had never worked with them before, so I'm still looking into them. They're out of Indiana. Hear really good things about them, but just want to check into them a little bit. So I'll have that for the next meeting.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the city engineer? Councilman Jaworski?
Pete, any updates on when the Rockefeller Road intersection project may be moving forward?
That is in my report here. Yes, sir. Sorry, I missed a page. That's all being run through ODOT, okay? And the last time I checked, they were awarding the project and they were planning on construction to start March 1st. And then by August 1st, that's all I know. It has not been a pre-con called for yet, so as soon as I do know, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Councilman Gerhardstein?
Pete, how is East 296th Street coming?
Going great. Actually, Ron and I have a meeting there tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock to talk to the contractor about paving operations and getting the curb and the sidewalk put in. That's the next step that we're working on.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the city engineer? Thank you, Pete. Service Director Strouser.
Thank you, Council President. Just a couple things they add. I'm doing a bit of good news. The new pool heater is in and installed. They still have to do some, final adjustments and stuff, which they can't do. They can't fire it up until there's water in the pool, but it's in and ready to go. So So that's some good news. The other thing I did want to mention was Dominion East Ohio is going to be starting a fairly large project on Euclid Avenue. They're going to be replacing the gas mains on Euclid Avenue all the way from Bellevue all the way down to Empire. Most of it's going to be a boring project, but they're going anywhere from 6-inch to 8-inch mains and be doing it. They'll be jumping across the street, back and forth, doing both sides. It's a pretty entailed project. Pete and I have to we're having a pre-con with them for this because it's such a big project. But I just wanted to at least let you guys know it's going to start on April 1st. So there might be a little bit of interference for the parade, Memorial Day parade. But they assured us they're started at Bellevue and they're hoping to be past Mount Carmel and everything, at least somewhat temporary backfill and everything by the parade. Just want to let you guys know. That's it. That's all I have.
Any questions or comments for the service director? Councilman Jaworski.
So based on what East Ohio Gas is doing, do you anticipate that they're going to, at any point in time, have to dig up any part of the road or the sidewalk?
Yeah, definitely will.
And then they will be responsible then, once it's dug up, to patch everything to our standards?
Absolutely.
Councilman Thielman.
Thank you. Similar to what was done on Lloyd Road last year,
Yes.
maybe?
Mhm.
And I
Yeah,
know
so it
that-
won't be total open bores, there'll be a bore hole here, then they're gonna bore, use the machines, bore underground, and another hole here, and things like that.
So
But,
similar project on Vine Street, will be from Erie to maybe Skiff or almost to Route 2. And I know the city did eke a lot of extra concrete work out of them, got
Yeah.
some more sidewalks done and stuff, so.
Anything to beautify the avenue.
Right. So keep that in mind. They were pretty accommodating.
Councilman Jaworski.
Ron, where are the gas mains on Euclid Avenue? Are they more toward the sidewalks, in the middle of the road, where would?
Pretty much under the sidewalk on both sides.
On both, yeah.
Okay.
On both sides, that's why they're gonna be worn across to meet both the mains and stuff. And they're not replacing all of it. I don't know what their reasoning is. We just got kind of a glimpse of the plans and went over what we had.
And you said that's from Bellevue to Empire, correct?
Correct.
Councilman Bella.
Right, without the extra salt that we might be having, I think it'd be feasible to have another salt, not dome, but like a structure, maybe down on Lakeland, like in the back somewhere. or-
Yeah, I have a call, I actually been emailing back with the lady from the EPA, because there's certain restrictions. It used to be able, we ran into this problem years ago, and we threw a tarp down on the ground, put all the salt on it, and we tarped it over. Those regulations don't fly anymore, so I'm waiting to hear back from her. She was actually checking into it, because she didn't know what the current regulations were, so that is an option. There is an option, we can pay Morton to store it for us, stuff like that, and, we'll see what happens, how much we have, but right now, we're probably gonna be in an excess of around 1,000 tons of salt that we are gonna be able to house.
I know in our facility, we just have those, concrete barriers stacked 3 high, then we have the tarp, not tarp, but the industrial white tarp, just bowed as a semicircle.
Right,
That covers all our salt.
Right. right.
Is it-
Yeah, and that's a fairly inexpensive way to go, that may even be cheaper than housing it, than having them to store it, which is something we're looking into. And there's a bunch of different options, but we'll play it out and see what happens, but there isn't funds to buy a hoop housing like that for, at least I'd have to come back to you guys and ask if that was the route we were gonna take.
Yeah, because I know it's fairly inexpensive, because it's
Yeah, it's not
almost
too much
pre-made,
money.
except just for the construction, barriers and stuff.
Right, and if they'll let us do that for a year, and that's the thing, if it's temporary, she may let us get by with it, if it's permanent, she said absolutely not with the city, especially with the water runoff now and all that kind of stuff, there's a bunch of regulations that they had. Actually, Chief and I were talking that Chardon Township got burned on that, for having some storage, and they didn't have the correct stuff done, and they came down on it pretty hard, so I don't wanna get into that.
Now, do we rent it back? How far do we go back at that service garage? Because I know years ago, you rent that property for $1 something from the railroad or something. Do we go all the way back?
No, so First Energy rents that out to a construction company, that they're a local Wickliffe company, but they access it from behind Wickliffe Auto Body, not our property. So we would have room to store it, I would just have to clear out some stuff that's there, and actually the neighbor with them doing all that construction project has all kinds of stuff on our property, and it would just be a matter of telling them to get it out of there,
Mhm.
you know, so we'll make room, for the salt, that's not a problem.
Okay,
Councilman Gerhardstein?
So on the follow-up on that question, that you're talking about the temporary salt structures, you have to check with the EPA. When you check with the EPA, can you make sure that whatever the guidelines are that you get with the building department, and then make sure that the current facilities in Wickliffe that have those facilities are following the same guidelines for the EPA?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments for the service director? Thank you, Ron. Both the building commissioner and the recreation director are out of town and they're excused. We'll now open the floor for audience participation. If anyone would like to address Wickliffe City Council, please stand, state your name and address for the clerk's record. Since these meetings are being recorded, she has a microphone that needs to be used. Each person will have a 5-minute maximum amount of time. Would anyone like to address Wickliffe City Council? Mr. Bishop?
Hi, Dan Bishop, 28841 Ridge Road. Mr. Mayor, previously you stated that you've never used that city Tahoe for personal use. I have a question for you. Have you ever driven that Tahoe to Pennsylvania?
Yeah, so last year I had to, I was going for a grant for the amphitheaters, and in Pittsburgh they had 17. So I went there to look at a couple different ones. I didn't go to all 17. Yet I know why that question came up, because there was an envelope that said, I knew there was going to be tolls. They weren't tolls that I could pay cash for. So I got a bill for it, but I paid it on my personal credit card, not on the city credit card. And I filled up once on my own dime. I don't get a city credit card or nothing like that. So, but yes, that's the time I used it.
Well, you previously stated to me that you've never taken that vehicle out of state.
Well, I didn't mean for personal use at all. That was a city issue related. Everybody knew I was looking into amphitheaters, but I can assure you, going forward, I'm being more careful. So since the 70s, Mel Buhite, they were issued a car, a city vehicle, that they could use for their other job. For personal, they would just use it, period. Some didn't even come back to City Hall for the day. They would take it and go to their job, go home, and it's just always been like that. But looking into it, after you were here a couple council meetings ago, I spoke with Jeremy, and even though they used it, I don't want to use it to where it's going to get myself in trouble. So he told me going forward, use it as less possible, because there are times where I have to go to my other job. I do come here, it is part of my commute. But I just wanted to explain that I'm trying my best not to do anything.
Well, these records that I have that I'm digging up do not add up to what you're telling me previously.
Well, the gas, so one of the things was the gas. Well, I was told by the service director when I punch in what my mileage is for the gas, that I didn't have to be accurate. He doesn't use that, it's not an official log. Uses that to track his fleet for oil changes. So if I remembered it was 12,000, I put 12,100 the next time I put in. The official log is when I'm given the car and it's 6,000 miles, and after 6 months, the car's at 12,000 miles. You know, that's how the official log is. They have that to track their fleet. So
Well, that's a very excessive amount of mileage.
1,000 a month is 250 under the average, which is 1,250. So I go a lot of places. I do for the city of Wickliffe. I know that some feel I'm a part-time mayor. I should stick to that, but I'm not. I'm full. I said I was going to be a full-time mayor, and I'm here every day, and I'm doing something for the city every day, because there's no other way we're going to move forward. But I can assure you, I'm doing the best I can.
Just doing my homework.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address Wickliffe City Council? Behind you, sir. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Dale Mueller, live at 1536 East 300th Street in Wickliffe. I've got a question, I don't know who this is going to relate to, but Biggie's on 290th in Euclid, seeing trucks down in there, food trucks. Are we allowing this? Are they getting permits for this? I saw them last week, and I also have an ad for them for Thursday. That they're going to have, it says, Thursday, 3/14, our signature lobster rolls are calling your name. Place an order at the truck or via mobile app. What's going on with this?
The building commissioner approached me and asked if,
Because I talked to Dino. I did.
Ray
Last week.
approached me and said I would, that they wanted to kind of start, their business is moving really slow. And if it would be okay to have food trucks, and I said, listen, I'll do whatever we can to help a business. However, check with the ward councilman and see if they're okay with it, because they do make the legislation. We have outdated ordinances that was like 1984 for food carts, something like that. And I've just spoken to my law director about looking at it, because all these community events that we have and people need food trucks, we have to amend it.
Understand that, but this is going to be on a weekly basis. It's going to take away from the businesses that are here in the city, okay, the other businesses. And the other question comes in, is now there was one, I saw two out there one time. Is this going to be a full parking lot this summer?
No, I thought this was a one-time. I didn't know this was gonna be on a regular basis. It'll get handled very soon.
Because, I mean, you know, like, we got other businesses in town.
Absolutely.
Let's not put it to the food truck. Understand once in a while, that's fine, but not on a regular basis.
And I didn't know it would be on a regular
Because
basis.
last week, they were there Thursday and Friday, there was two of them in one day. And again, here's the ad. On the 14th, which is this Thursday, they're gonna be there again.
Councilman Gerardstein?
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I want some clarity on here. When the mayor stated that he talked to the ward councilman, that's my ward. I was informed that the mayor and him allowed a food truck there, even though it was against the ordinance. So when they said he approached me, Mayor, he didn't ask if I cared. He stated that a food truck was allowed and that it was against the ordinance that we have, is exactly what the building commissioner told me. So when you say he notified the councilman in that word, he did notify me. He notified me that. So I don't think I want to make sure it's clear that I did not state that I was okay with the food truck there. It was stated to me that the food truck was coming, even though it was against the ordinance.
I was saying, that was miscommunication, because he told me.
I understand what's happening, Mr. Mayor, that
Right.
what you're told and what I told are two different things.
Right.
Okay? So I just wanted clarity on that I did not say I was okay with it.
It'll be handled tomorrow.
Councilwoman Koski?
I just want to say that I'm in favor of looking at these ordinances and allowing things such as this, because there's really nothing going on Euclid Avenue. And the restaurants that are available are not always open the same times as what the food trucks are there at lunchtime. And this is bringing business to a new area of town. And I don't know,
This is from 11 till 6 o'clock, so it's not just lunch.
well,
So my thought process on this was, I don't want Wickliffe to be the first place that a Big B fails. So until if supposed business is coming down by the roll house, I mean, I think that would boost things. But so I was he thought outside the box. I didn't have a problem, but I didn't think it was going to be, every week, 2 or 3 times a week. So.
Councilman Jaworski?
I have a significant concern. This city in the past has, in my opinion, favored some businesses over others. We should not be doing that. There should be no preference given to any Wickliffe business if it's not being given to all the other businesses. We should not be picking winners and losers of the establishments within our city. That's just not right, it's not fair, and I don't think it's appropriate.
well,
If another president.
that's why I said we should look at the ordinance, we should revisit it and see what's available, what, changes need to be made.
Councilman Thielman?
Yeah, if we're having a discussion on food trucks, I would certainly want us to adjust our ordinances to allow them to some degree. When I heard that there was the lobster roll truck coming there, I kind of was like, hey, that's cool, I love that place, because it's now touring northeastern Ohio. It would give me an opportunity to actually go to Big B, because I'm not a huge coffee guy in the first place, but I'll stop by. And in my head, I thought, man, actually, that's a nice lot for a food truck park. On Sugar and Boulevard in Beechwood, they took the former fire station that they own, and they turned it into a food truck park. It's highly successful. Lakewood has a food truck park. Willoughby's got a smaller version called the Yard, where there's one truck. It was Geraci's Slice Shop in there. Now they're gonna try to get 2 trucks in there, but they're all kind of the rage right now, right? Food trucks are big. I'd like us to embrace it. A lobster roll isn't gonna compete with Petty's Pizza, I don't think. It's not gonna compete with Vittorio's on a nightly basis, I don't know. But I would certainly like to see us look at expanding the use of food trucks in the city. Sherry's right, there's not much going on Euclid Avenue. Let's be serious here. You know, we want something to happen in this community, and now we have 1 food truck showing up and we're gonna slam it. I think that's ridiculous on many levels. So, all due respects.
Excuse me, but it's not slamming them, okay? You're starting a trend, they're gonna be here, you know, like a lot of these places are there on the weekend, period. Boom, done. They're gone. They're not there all week. I get around quite a bit. So it's not like I don't know what goes on. And when you start seeing these showing up, that's a big parking lot. How many are you gonna have in there at one time? Why do you wanna have a food truck park? Because it's not gonna go over well in the city, I'm gonna tell you right now. Because I got, my friends live right around the corner, they don't want them.
Well, that's the purpose for the regulation,
Right,
if we were
yes.
to have one.
You're
We could
absolutely right, but-
regulate them, time of hours, the operation, things like how many days of the week, things like that. There's a lot of communities struggle with this. Even downtown Willoughby does it. There was this whole thought that we'd never have a food truck in downtown Willoughby because the restaurants would take away from the restaurants, and the Coin Brothers would be upset, Hunter Tote, that Hook and Hoof would be upset, Geraci's would be upset, you know, everybody. Turns out, they actually all started food trucks themselves, and they're involved in the food truck scene, and they embrace it. More the merrier. They like the competition. They like more people downtown. I would love us to see some type of ordinance put in place that allows food trucks. My opinion, I'm 1 in 7.
Sure.
I
But you're right, Mr. Miller, that this was against the ordinance. We need to look at the ordinance and revamp the ordinance. That's the goal number 1. Discussing this right now makes
Yeah.
zero sense when we really need to talk about it
I agree.
at a committee meeting of what changes we're gonna make, if we're gonna make any.
I agree.
Right, you're right. Thank you. Mr. Councilman Bala?
Well, first thing is, you know, I think we need to see on social media, you know, the food trucks traveling around Cleveland that says, you know, Wickliffe canceled, not allowed. You know, you see that happening easily. And for us to be discussing, and I understand it's against the ordinance, a food truck, when we have so many other problems in the city, that we're talking about a food truck. So think about that.
Councilwoman Saloto?
Okay. Understood, but we need to have the proper ordinances in place because there are, and I'm not speaking personally for myself, yes, my family owns a restaurant, but I mean, there are restaurants and businesses, bona fide businesses that pay taxes here in the city. And, you know, we should take that into consideration because a food truck doesn't pay taxes and a food truck doesn't do all those things. So if we're gonna put together this opportunity for food trucks, then we should make it a real life ordinance. So I agree with you. So there's nothing, but that is an issue we should talk about because, I mean, it does affect our businesses and it does affect our citizens. So I think we should add that to a committee as soon as possible. Thank you for bringing it up.
Councilman Thielen?
Just one last comment. I'm just trying to create a vibe. We don't have much of a vibe going on here. We need a vibe going.
I know. I mean, and I understand. And you are a vibe kind of guy.
I know.
He's like, he's needing some vibe. I understand. I'm with you.
Would anyone else like to address Wickliffe City Council? Would anyone else like to address Wickliffe City Council? If not, we'll mark audience participation closed. Committee reports. The Finance Committee met on March 4th at 7:01 p.m. to discuss the ordinance 2024-15. Present, Gerhardstein, George, Sikowski, Levon. Excused, Bala, Saloto, Thielman. Also present, Law Director Iusu, Engineer Formica, Finance Director Hunter, Fire Chief Grossman. Fire Chief Grossman presented the ordinance 2024-15, which pertains to compensation and other employment provisions for part-time firefighters to the committee.
In this ordinance, Grossman tried to eliminate steps or stages of payment for part-time firefighters that he deemed unnecessary. The thought behind reducing the steps and increasing the wages was to help recruit and retain talent. The fire department uses part-time employees as a method to reduce overtime when full-time employees are using paid time off from sick, vacation, and Kelly days. Grossman removed the orientation training rate and will start new hires at the probationary step. He also removed the 2-year 24-month step and reduced the 5-year 60-month step into 3 years or 36 months. He explained that he had 14 part-time employees. 7 firefighters would be considered in the top rate, which is 36 months of service, which has a rate of $23.02 per hour. 5 of those 7 employees already had 60 months of service or time, so they would receive just a 2.5% increase from $22.46 to $23.02. 2 of those 7 employees would be just hitting the 36-month mark, so they would be receiving a step increase and a 2.5% pay increase, going from $21.58 to $23.02, which is a 6.7% increase from 2023. 5 firefighters would be considered in the non-probationary rate, which has a rate of $21.58 per hour. 3 of those 7 would receive the 2.5% increase from $21.05 to $21.58 per hour. 2 of those 5 would move from the probationary step to the non-probationary steps and a 2.5% increase, going from $19.64 to $21.58, which is a 9.9% increase from 2023. 2 firefighters are new hires and would receive the new probationary rate of $19.26 per hour. Grossman also notified the committee that they are constantly reaching out to prospective employees, but lately they have been taking other offers from other cities who are offering higher wages. Gardstein asked for clarification on Part F and G under Section 1 of the ordinance titled Salary Schedule. On the 2023 ordinance, it stated that if an employee worked more than 750 hours in 2023, they would get an additional increase of 75% per hour in 2024. And if they worked in excess of 1,150 hours in 2023, they would receive an additional $1.50 per hour in 2024. On this 2024 ordinance, it states that if they were assigned to specific dependable, which is 750 hours, or super dependable, 1,150 hours, they would receive that rate. Hartstein wanted to know if employees who worked 750 hours in 2023 would be scheduled on the dependable shift were receiving a 75% raise or $1.50 raise. Grossman stated that they were only receiving the 75% raise. Both Hartstein and Jaworski thought that wasn't clearly defined and could be considered unfair to our employees. Law Director Iosu stated that he would get with Grossman and they can add some clarifying statements to make this less confusing. Grossman stated he already had these conversations with the employees and that it is easier to use this method as a management tool for scheduling. To decrease the impact of all the proposed wage increases, Gerhardstein proposed removing the extra $250 from the clothing allowance for newly hired employees. This was a new suggestion proposed by him. The rest of the committee agreed. Gerhardstein also asked the law director to formulate different terms on the ordinance for dependable and super dependable. Iosu stated that he would work with Grossman to come up with clearer terms. The law director and fire chief will get to work on some of these committee's proposals and update the ordinance to present to the committee at a later date. This item is reported out. This item will remain in committee. Meeting adjourned at 7:56. Respectfully submitted. The committee of the whole met on March 4th at 7:57 to discuss changes to Chapter 1305 per the Planning Commission's recommendations. President Gerhardstein, Jaworski, Koski, Levon, excused Ballas, Loda, Thielman. Also present, Law Director Iosu and Engineer Formica. The committee met to discuss the proposed changes to Chapter 1305 from the Planning Commission. Under Section 3, definitions, Councilman Jaworski recommended that we change the definition of facade to the principal form of a building that looks out onto a street or open space. Councilman Levon suggested that the letter K be added with a definition of outside storage being an enclosed unit used to store items separate from the primary building with the exception of a shipping container. Under Section 4, plan requirements, Levon suggested that we increase the minimum number of continuous lots of housing developments to be reviewed by the Architectural Review Board to 5 instead of 3. He also just suggested we added excluding signage to the sentence. No permit for new building additions or alterations to existing structures will be issued until compliance with other following requirements has been met, since we already have a sign ordinance. Under Section B of the plan requirements, Gerhardstein suggested that we remove floor plans to complete and show all new construction. He stated that if the Architectural Review Board should focus on the exterior buildings, not the interior. He also suggested we remove walls, appliances, and fireplaces from sections B1 and both lines B2, electrical plans and HVAC plans may be shown on the plans on a separate electrical and mechanical plans, and B3, floor plans shall indicate the structure of framing information. Under section C4, material samples, Gerhardstein suggested we add with visual exposure to the line all exterior finished materials including roofing. He stated that material samples should not be for roofs that are non-exposed or flat. Under section C5, cash deposit, Councilman Jaworski asked the law director to confirm that the minimum deposit should be $1,000 as stated on the proposed ordinance. Under section 5, exterior plan approval, Gerhardstein asked for clarification on who would be considered city staff that would provide the reports to the planning commission of the exterior plan. Engineer Formica stated that this would be him and the designated city architect from CT Consultants. Under section 6, architectural review standards for residential, Levon suggested we remove vinyl aluminum or metal siding from the minimal use suggestion of building materials for residential housing and to add cinder block. He also recommended that we remove the following line as well. The exteriors on a minimum of 40% of the facades of buildings shall incorporate brick veneer, stone veneer, split face block, stucco, glass, decorative block, EIFS, or other contemporary durable materials that have the appearance of stone, brick, or stucco, or other natural materials from section A1. Under section A2, facades, Gerhardstein recommended we change the sentence from all facades sides of a building to the facade of a building. Gerhardstein would like the section B2 open space section to be removed. He doesn't believe it is fair for a developer to have to provide recreational activities for residents on the development. Levon suggested we remove chain link from the not permitted types of fences under section B4 fencing. He also suggested we should change to section D signs to state requirements defined in chapter 1161 signs and remove the height and design stipulations. Under section 7, architectural review standards from general business applications section A1, Gerhardstein suggested we change the term from building facade shall be constructed with one or more of the following materials to building facades are encouraged to be constructed with one or more of the following materials. Under section A4, Levon suggested removing the sentences, facades greater than 75 feet in length measured horizontally should incorporate wall plans, projections, or recesses. No uninterrupted length of any facade should exceed 75 feet, and to remove both the subsections A, ground floor facades, and B, back and side facades. Under section B3, Levon suggested removing front facade from the sentence, chain link fencing shall be limited to the areas behind the front facade of the primary building. Levon also suggested we change the E signs to state requirements defined in chapter 1161 signs and remove the height and design stipulations. Under section 8, architectural review standards for the Euclid Avenue Overlay District, section A1, Gerhardstein would like to remove the standardized corporate prototype buildings are discouraged. He stated this could prevent corporate chains like Dunkin' Donuts or similar companies from setting up shop in the city. Under section A3, Jaworski wanted to remove fall stone and synthetic stucco from materials that are discouraged on Euclid Avenue. Under section A4, Gerhardstein recommended we remove it, and existing windows should not be reduced in size or eliminated on street-facing facades. Under section A9, Levon suggested we remove the number 7 from section 1305 6D as it was not needed. Gerhardstein stated that we should remove section A10, see section 10 for city minimum standard detail as it was already defined earlier. Section A15, Gerhardstein wants to remove the sentence, timeless, elegantly designed benches and trash receptacles that do not recall any specific time period will provide for pedestrian comfort without distracting from the character of the area. Under section A16, Gerhardstein suggested to remove the line, sidewalks should be generous within the district along the street and leading to each building entrance, and he would like to modify the next line to state new sidewalks leading to each building's entrance should have at least a 5-foot clear passageway. Under section 9, architectural review standards for manufacturing applications, A1, Jaworski would like to use the words are encouraged instead of should be in referring to the specific building materials to be used on buildings in that zoning area. He also would like to remove metal siding from being one of the types of building materials that is discouraged. Levon suggested we change the section E, signs to state requirements defined in chapter 1161, signs, and remove the height and design stipulations. This committee recommends the council that it authorize the law director to create legislation to modify chapter 1305 based on the planning commission's recommendations and the committee's modifications. This item is reported out of committee. Meeting adjourned at 9:39, respectfully submitted. I'll make a motion to authorize the law director to create legislation to modify Chapter 1305 per the Planning Commission and Committee of the Whole recommendations.
Second.
Moved by Council President Levon, second by Councilman Jaworski to authorize the law director to create legislation to modify Chapter 1305 per the Planning Commission and Committee of the Whole recommendations. Discussion? Sandy, please call the roll.
Ayala.
Yes.
Gerhardstein.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Kowski.
Yes.
Levon.
Yes.
Saloto.
Yes.
Spielman.
Yes.
Commission reports. Councilman Jaworski.
Planning Commission met on March 7, 2024. The Planning Commission approved a parking plan for approval for an entertainment arcade located at 30436 Euclid Avenue in a general business district. The Planning Commission also heard from James Hunley of SDI Construction LLC, their request for rezoning from Town Center to RMS Residential Multifamily located at the rear of parcel number 29A-003-000-27 and approved that as such. Planning Commission will be holding a public hearing for essentially the back end of that parcel for sunset developments at our April meeting.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other commission reports? Seeing no old business, new business A, the Wickliffe City School District property zoning. For those who were able to attend last week, they had a public hearing for the, the city hosted a public hearing for the school district, a zoning property, and the recommendation was to be R60 for all the residential lots and for general business on Euclid Avenue. So we're going to put that in the committee of the whole to have a little quick discussion on that. To finalize that zoning before we put it on an ordinance. Okay. Then we'll move on to ordinances.
Ordinance number 2024-05. This is the third reading by title only, an ordinance enacting Chapter 1152 nuisance abatement of the codified ordinances of the city of Wickliffe, Ohio.
Adoption.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Gerhardstein, second by Councilman Thielman to adopt ordinance 2024-05 as presented. Discussion? Sandy, please call the roll.
Ayala.
Yes.
Gerhardstein.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Kowski.
Yes.
Levon.
Yes.
Saloto.
Yes.
Spielman.
Yes.
Ordinance passes.
Ordinance number 2024-10 amended. This is the second reading by title only, an ordinance providing appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Wickliffe, Ohio for the period beginning January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024. Ordinance number 2024-11. This is also the second reading by title only, an ordinance providing for the compensation of appointed officials of the city of Wickliffe, Ohio, and repealing any and all other ordinances or parts thereof that may be inconsistent with the ordinance.
Excuse me.
Ordinance number 2024-12, also the second reading by title only, an ordinance providing for the compensation of certain salaried and hourly employees of the city of Wickliffe, Ohio, and repealing any and all other ordinances or parts thereof that may be inconsistent with this ordinance. Ordinance number 2024-13, second reading by title only, an ordinance providing for the compensation and other employment provisions for special police officers of the city of Wickliffe, Ohio, and repealing any and all other ordinances or parts thereof that may be inconsistent with this ordinance. Ordinance number 2024-14, also the second reading by title only, an ordinance providing for the compensation and other employment provisions for the part-time public safety dispatchers of the city of Wickliffe, Ohio, and repealing any and all other ordinances or parts thereof that may be inconsistent with this ordinance. Ordinance number 2024-16, second reading by title only, an ordinance providing for the compensation of certain employees of the city of Wickliffe, Ohio, and repealing any and all other ordinances or parts thereof that may be inconsistent with this ordinance. Ordinance number 2024-17, Also the second reading by title only, an ordinance amending certain sections of Chapter 1369, requirements for improvements, reservations, and design of the codified ordinances of the city of Wickliffe, Ohio.
Resolutions?
Okay, resolution number 2024-03. This is the first reading by title only. A resolution expressing unwavering support and sympathy for the innocent civilians experiencing violence in Israel and Palestine, being Muslim, Jewish, and Christian, and condemning all violence of any kind. Affirming Wickliffe's status as a welcoming community for any religion, encouraging residents to decree any and all acts of violence both in our communities and around the globe, and express their deepest condolences to all those affected by the atrocities of the war on Gaza.
Other legislation? Miscellaneous? Councilman Garrettson?
I just wanted to clarify on the rezoning for the multifamily for the people that are, so they're clear, that is for the old Ponderosa property, but they asked for the rezoning to multifamily. That's all. To clarify the marks of the planning commission.
Okay, yeah, correct.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilman Dillon?
In regards to resolution 2024-03,
Yep.
are we gonna have any discussion about that?
We can discuss on the third reading.
Okay.
For sure. Councilman
Just
Sloto?
curious about the wording. Did you write the, or who wrote this
Yeah,
resolution?
I took 3 different resolutions that have passed and combined it. There is nothing that is inflammatory, accusatory. It is strictly a humanitarian aid, calling for ceasefire and allowing food, medicine, and water to be allowed into the affected area for civilians that are not fighting the war. It's a catastrophe that's happening there, and there are just basic necessities that are needed to prevent any more deaths. There's already been 30,000 people that have been killed. Starvation is happening right now. Air aid drops are not sufficient to feed 2 million people. Trucks have not been allowed in for months in the number that would provide any kind of relief. So, and this would, there's 70 cities that have already passed similar resolutions, and this would just add a voice to what is already viewed by many countries and organizations as something that shouldn't be happening.
Councilman Tibbet? Sure.
To prolong, I'd be happy to share my issues with the resolution with Sherry. Just some semantics. War on Gaza. There's
Correct.
a war in Gaza.
Right.
There's never been declared any war in Gaza. Is it a temporary ceasefire, a ceasefire, or a permanent ceasefire? It's all 3 different ways in the resolution. And that Tel Yeshiva is here, right?
Right.
We have, the Cleveland Jewish Federation has suggested that councils don't pass any resolutions.
Understandable.
like
If
this,
you
so-
can
And
have that,
many
you can
communities
have that
across the
conversation.
country have not voted for them or defeated them as
Sure.
have voted for them. So,
I also spoke with Rabbi Wolf about this on the phone, and I
So-
sent it to him, and he.
but I'd be happy to
Right.
share my
Sure.
thoughts.
Sure.
Sure.
You want to add them?
You can share,
Modify.
I would too.
you could share with her, and if she wants to modify, we can put it back on first reading, right?
Right.
If that's the case.
Or
Yeah.
amend it?
Or amend it and put it back on first reading, that's true as well.
Thank
But
you.
we can do that, or you can do that. I asked, we talked about putting it in the committee, and Sherry chose not to. She said that she'd rather just put it out there.
Okay, thank you.
It actually was recommended by both Loderick and myself to put it in the committee, but that's not what she chose, but it's fine. The Economic Development Committee is meeting on the 18th to discuss changes to Chapter 1313 for the Planning Commission. I'd like to add a finance meeting to discuss ordinance 2024-15 to follow that. as well as a committee of the whole to discuss the Wickliffe City School District property zoning. So both those will follow the economic development meeting on the 18th. Any other miscellaneous? If not, I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Gerhardt-Stein, second by Councilman Thielman to move into executive session to consider complaints against a public employee. Discussion? Sandy, please call the roll.
Bell.
Yes.
Gerhardt-Stein.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Kowski.
Yes.
Levon.
Yes.
Soloto. Yes. Thielman.
Yes.
We will reconvene in 5 minutes. Thank you.